Welcome to Mocking the Movies, where if I can't enjoy the movie because of all the stupid in it, I might as well enjoy mocking the movie because of all of the stupid in it. I'm your condescending bastard of a host, the Jaded Fanboy. And today's movie is going to be Spider-Man Far From Home. Now, there's going to be a ton of stupid in this, so buckle up. To start off, pop quiz. The water elemental. Is it a hologram or is it an actual water elemental? Wrong. It's both. Because the movie establishes the water elemental as an actual water elemental, but at the same time also ends up establishing it as an actual hologram. This is how screwed up this movie is. I'll give you examples. When Peter Parker finishes talking to MJ, he notices a manhole. And he notices the water receding into the manhole. Well, if the water elemental is a hologram, it wouldn't actually need to, draw in water to actually form itself because it's only a hologram. The only reason the water elemental would need to draw water into itself is if it was an actual water elemental. You see, this is the movie purposely deceiving you into establishing that it actually is a water elemental. The other example is when it's with the bridge. It's the bridge. Okay. So Peter Parker sees these people on the bridge, right? And he sees this water elemental walking towards the bridge. Now the people on the bridge also see the water elemental walking to the bridge, right? So what does Peter Parker do? Oh, I must save the people on the bridge. Because apparently the concept of running off the bridge and getting out of the path of the water elemental was too complicated a strategy for Peter Parker to figure out. Because by the time Peter got to the bridge, guess what? It was empty. Why? Because the people ran off of the bridge. And for a second you see Peter Parker what do? I don't know what to do. The people saved themselves. How useless am I in this movie? Believe me, he's incredibly useless in this movie, but I'll get to that later. So anyway, back to the water elemental. So the water elemental punches the bridge, right? And Peter Parker is drenched, covered in water. Well, if it was a hologram, where did the water come from? This is the movie, again, purposely deceiving you into establishing that it's an actual water elemental. Okay? But here's the beautiful part, is that in the same fight scene with the water elemental, the movie also establishes that it's a hologram. Because there's a scene, well there's two of them, but I'm going to talk about the one, where Peter Parker is sprayed with the hologram of the water. Okay? And the hologram, the water hits him, and then it dissipates. And Peter Parker doesn't get wet. And he doesn't realize that he's not wet and doesn't even question it. This is a guy that can understand how interdimensional travel works, but doesn't understand that water is wet. What is going on in this movie? It's do you understand? The movie had to establish that it was a hologram. So it shows the hologram of water covering Peter Parker. But then Peter Parker doesn't realize that when he doesn't get wet, that there's something wrong. You don't need your spider sense to figure this out. Do you understand what I'm talking about? But this is the stupid I'm talking about. Now, the fire elemental doesn't really have that type of screw up. It does one, but it's more how the movie screws up on how holograms work. And if the movie had never explained how holograms worked, there wouldn't have been a problem. Except the movie actually explains how the holograms work, which ends up exposing how many screw-ups the movie makes in regards to the holograms. Because there's two key features to the holograms. One, the drones are inside. They're camouflage, so they're invisible, whatever. But they're the ones that are establishing the holograms. The second the second aspect of the holograms is that the holograms are like a movie. They're pre-made ahead of time. Okay? Because in the scene where, I think it's in Prague, where MJ and Peter Parker are talking and MJ has the projector and she drops it, it plays the pre-made scene of the elemental. And the following scene after that is Beck and his crew setting up the hologram for the elemental in London. And he establishes that it's all pre-programmed, all preset, all pre-choreographed. It's like a little mini movie. They're filming and making the hologram ahead of time, which means you can't change or alter the hologram once you hit play. So everything that the hologram does had to have already been preset in the programming, which ends up screwing up everything about the hologram when it's played in the movie. Simple example, okay? When Spider-Man was talking to Beck, right, on the rooftop, and he goes, "Oh, it's really nice to have somebody to talk to about superhero stuff." You see Mysterio floating up, saying, "Oh, isn't there like sarcasm on this planet?" And then sitting down beside Peter Parker. Now, Beck doesn't actually have superpowers. He can't actually make green energy fly out of his hands. That's the hologram. Beck can't actually fly. When you see him flying, it's the hologram of him. So when you see the image, when you see Mysterio coming up, it's not actually Beck. It's the hologram of Mysterio. Which meant they would have had to pre-program that scene ahead of time for them to play it when he talks to Spider-Man. When did they do this? How did Beck know that Spider-Man ahead of time was going to be sitting on a roof? And how would he have known where on the roof he was going to sit? Do you understand? The holograms don't work. When you see the major the psychedelic hologram that is in the middle of the movie. Before we get to that, okay, this is a chain reaction of stupid. Before I even get to that, I have to get to how he even gets to Interpol. Okay. So, Spider-Man finds out that Beck is a fraud, okay, and that he has Edith. So, Spider-Man goes, "I need to talk to Fury so I can, he can warn him about Beck having Edith." But he can't call him because, Beck would obviously trace the call and would know what was going on. So the idea is to go to Berlin and not have Beck know about it, okay? So Spider-Man pulls a Captain Marvel from Endgame, where Captain Marvel just showed up. In fact, this movie saw that scene and went, here, hold my beer. Because this is what this movie does. Spider-Man has no idea where Fury is in Berlin. He also has no idea how to find him. Screw it! I'll just go anyway. Just like how in Endgame, Iron Man goes, I'll just fly off into space and hope something happens before I die of asphyxiation. In this movie, Spider-Man goes, I'll just go to Berlin and hope for the best. And what does the movie do? Fury just shows up literally where Spider-Man lands. How did Fury know that Peter Parker was even coming? It's not like he called ahead of time. And how did Fury even know where Peter Parker was going to arrive in Berlin? Screw it! Who gives a shit? The writers don't know. You as an audience... Never mind, I'm not going to get into that. Do you understand? So anyway, Fury then drives Peter Parker to what he believes is Interpol headquarters. Now wrap your head around this Inception level of stupid that's about to happen. Nick Fury drives Peter Parker to an abandoned building. Now I know what you're saying is that, oh no, it's a hologram that looks like Interpol headquarters. Does Fury not know the actual address of where Interpol is? Because if he knew the actual address of where Interpol is, you want to know where Fury would have driven to? He would have driven to the actual Interpol headquarters. For him to drive to an abandoned building that only looks like Interpol headquarters, he would have had to be driving around Berlin, looking out the window, looking for a building that looks like Interpol headquarters. Because if he used the GPS, you want to know what the GPS directions would have given him? The actual address to Interpol. How did Fury end up driving to an abandoned building? Who cares if it looks like Interpol? It's the wrong address. Fury drove to the wrong address. I don't know what other reaction I can give to this. This is how gloriously stupid this movie is. But the Inception level goes even further. Now we have to deal with the hologram itself. Excuse me. Because once it's revealed that it's a hologram, I'm looking at it and I'm going, how? When? Why? I mean, how did Beck even know to make the hologram? It's not like he knew Peter was going to find Fury, so there was no reason for him to make the hologram. Screw it. We want this scene, and the movie doesn't care what stupid they have to go through to get this scene to happen. We want this scene. This is the big scene of the movie. Then I'm going, well, when did they have the time to even make the hologram? And it's like, the movie's established, you have to pre-make the hologram ahead of time, remember? So the crew would have had to have thought this up, program it, set it, and choreograph it, all in the time it took Peter to get from Prague to Berlin? Or what? They had this set up ahead of time just in case? But again, let's ignore all that. Here's the glorious As stupid as that is, here's the glorious stupid. You need the projectors to be set up, which would have meant. So again, let's go. He knew that Peter was going to talk to Fury. They had the time to make the hologram, okay? The crew would have had to have left Prague, go to Berlin, go to the abandoned building, set up all the projectors all over the building, because the movie's already established you need the projectors. Because when they fight the fire elemental, there's a projector that Spider-Man grabs, so we know that there's projectors. So they would have had to have driven to Berlin, set up the projectors, and then they would have had to drive back to Prague, because that's where the control panel and the whole setup is in the first place. I love this movie. Okay, now, again, even with all that, let's give them all of that. I'm watching the whole acid trip scene with Mysterio and Spider-Man, and I'm going, why? I mean, think about it. Really. I mean, the movie's over. You're no longer in the movie theater. The necessity to shut your brain off is no longer required. So, work with me here. What was the purpose of that acid trip hologram scene? Nothing. The movie goes out of its way with stupid just to set that up, and Beck knows where they are and goes, you know what? I got nothing better to do. It's not like I got set up an elemental in London scene going on. Let's just make up some really elaborate, over the top, highly detailed, highly choreographed, reveal ourselves to Fury, and the scene had no purpose other than it being eye candy for the movie. Why did Beck make that hologram? No reason. Apparently he's channeling Megamind. Never mind. There's more I could discuss, but I think I've done enough. Oh, wait a minute. There is one more I want to talk about. This is kind of stupid, but it also kind of pissed me off. Was at the end of the fire elemental scene, when Beck gets up and goes, let's go get a drink, and Peter Parker goes, oh, I'm not 21 yet. Now you think I'm going to talk about the bar scene. No, that's not the problem. This is where the movie went so off the rails stupid that I stopped caring about what happened, because there was a lot of problems with Spider-Man and Peter Parker, but this scene made me go, this is no longer Spider-Man, this isn't Peter Parker, this is somebody else. And that was, the fire elemental dissipates, and there's all this destruction and fire and everything. And Peter goes to get a drink with Mysterio. And it's like, wait, no fire trucks, no ambulances. I mean, while they were in the bar, they could have at least, had the sirens of the fire trucks and the ambulances in the background. Nope. Apparently, a fire elemental, or again, that can cause all this destruction, blow up buildings, cause all these fires, and apparently it's a Tuesday for these people? Like, nobody, no emergency services, no cops, no nothing. And does our intrepid hero go and help anybody? Screw that. He's gonna go have a drink with his new father figure. I mean, Tony Stark's gone. This guy so requires a father figure. He takes up Mysterio as his new father figure. Do you remember the Sam Raimi Spider-Man where he would actually go into burning buildings to save people? Well, apparently this Spider-Man doesn't give a rat's ass. It's like all this destruction, all these fires, all these people injured or whatever. Even his two best friends are still stuck on top of the Ferris wheel. Screw them. I'm going for a drink. How am I supposed to take this Spider-Man and this movie seriously? How did any of you take this movie and this Spider-Man seriously? I mean, think about it. His best friend and his girlfriend are still on the top of the Ferris wheel, and he left them there. He never rescued them. He went for it. Anyway, I could probably go on for another hour and a half, but I'm not making this a 5-part series. I'm done. Anyway, tell you what, if you guys actually like this idea or this format and any of you want me to actually talk about more of the stupid in the Spider-Man movie, let me know and I'll do it. I mean, I don't mock the movie for me. I mock the movie for you. I'm here for you. It's just the kind of guy I am. I give and I give. That's a selfish, kind of condescending son of a bitch that I am. Anyway, again, if you guys like it, let me know. And if you want me to make a part 2, because God knows I can, believe me, I can blabber on about this for another hour and a half. Kind of like what I'm doing right now. Anyway, I'm out of here. See ya.